Good morning, students. Bharat Group of Schools and Colleges, Standard 6, Subject English. Lesson The Sword in the Stone, Part 2. The story continues. Sir Kay bought the sword and showed it to Sir Ector, his father. Sir Ector knew the truth. He asked his son, Kay answered, I have got it, and that's what matters. Kay replied, stubborn as ever. Well, then come with me, Sir Ector said, and led his son inside the great church, which was now empty. Taking the holy book from the choir means the part of the church where the singers sit during the service, and asked him to take a swear that he drew the sword from the stone. Sir Kay lowered his eyes. He could not face his father now. How did you come by the sword, son? Sir Ector asked him once again. Arthur brought it to me, father, said Kay, still with his eyes lowered. Bring Arthur here and let the three of us go to the churchyard. Sir Ector told him, we have to know the truth about this. Soon the three of them were at the churchyard. Put the sword back on its anvil. Sir Ector said to Kay. Try as he might, Kay could not put the sword back. It struck the anvil and slid off the block. Arthur saw what was happening and thought that his father was angry with them because he thought the sword was stolen. Sir Ector had always told his son what matters most for a knight is integrity. Integrity means honesty, having strong moral and principles and rules. And then, after that, Arthur stepped forward impulsively, acting suddenly. Here, let me put it back, he said, and taking the mighty sword from his elder brother, he thrust it back on the anvil and it slipped in neatly. I assure you, father, I did not steal the sword. Kay needed a sword urgently, and I did not want to keep them awaiting. Rather than ride all the way home, I decided to take the sword which I found in the churchyard. And see, it is back in its place now. I fully intended to put it back in place after the tournament. And glancing at his brother, he added, I am sure that is what Kay would have told me to do. Wouldn't you, brother? Sir Kay did not speak a word. All right, Arthur, I believe you, said Sir Ector. Now let me see you draw that sword out as you did the first time. First you, Kay. But try as he might, Kay could not so much as grip the handle, and he could not move the sword however hard he tried. Now it is your turn, Arthur, said Sir Ector. Arthur gripped the handle of the sword and drew the sword out gently but firmly. Sir Ector made him repeat the action again and again. Each time Arthur gripped the handle and drew the sword out without any hesitation. Sir Ector was overwhelmed. Overwhelmed means overcome with emotions. He fell on his knees before his young son, who held the mighty sword in his hand, and bowed his head in deep devotion. Wordlessly, Kay followed his example. Arthur jumped back in surprise. Father, why do you kneel before me? Am I not your son? That is what I had thought until now, Sir Kay replied. But now I know better that you are the son of good King Uther Pendragon, and I bow to you as you are the King of Britain now. How could that be? You and I know that. I was an orphan boy entrusted to your care. Silently, Sir Ector pointed to the inscription. Inscription is words cut in stone, which Arthur had not seen until now. Who's pulled out the sword is by right of birth King of England. But it can't be me, father. I am your son, and I shall always remain your son. There was a flash of light, and Merlin appeared before them. Merlin is a character in this lesson. In the legends of King Arthur, Merlin is portrayed as a great wizard who helped, advised, and guided Arthur. Merlin, with the help of the archbishops, that is, priest, had arranged the sword in the stone so that Britain would get its rightful king. Now Merlin appeared before them, a hooded figure with bright shining eyes and a bewitching smile. Lovingly he laid his hand on Arthur's head and said to him, "Indeed, I was the one who entrusted you to good Sir Ector for your own safety. Your father and I knew that great danger lay ahead for the kingdom and yourself. No sooner than you were born, your father blessed you and handed you over to me, with the solemn request that you would take your rightful place on the throne of England when it was safe for you to do so." Turning to Sir Ector, Merlin said, "In the name of the late King Uther, I thank you. You have done a splendid job of bringing up the heir to the British throne. Now you must inform the archbishop and your fellow knights of all that has happened here. I shall await your return." Forthwith Sir Ector called upon the archbishop and all the lords assembled at the tournament. Holding Arthur by the hand, he announced to the assembly, "Behold, the rightful King of England." For a moment there was silence, and then the crowd burst out in anger protest. "How can we believe you? Who is this unknown boy? Where did he came from? How is he any better than one of us?" The archbishop took them all to the churchyard. The entire assemblage watched in awe. Assemblage means a group of people, and awe means feeling of wonder, admiration, and fear. As Arthur inserted the sword in the anvil and drew it out effortlessly, some of the lords and knights also tried to draw the sword, but failed to do so. Again and yet again, Arthur drew the sword from the stone before his people. Each time cheer went up, and each time more and more knights drew their swords and held them high in a gesture of loyalty to their new-found prince. Loud cheers rose from the common people who had surrounded the churchyard, eager to greet their new king. Now Merlin stepped out of the shadows and addressed the crowds. "Behold, O people of Britain, I present to you the one and only son of King Uther Pendragon and his queen. He is your rightful king."